Hi, I'm Michelle from Unicorn and Centaur, and today's video is an equestrian film review, where I watch non-horse movies and review them from an equestrian perspective. Today's review is of Rustlers Rhapsody, the 1985 Western spoof starring Tom Berenger and directed by Hugh Wilson. If you have not already seen this movie, here is your warning: there are massive spoilers ahead. I usually think spoiler alerts for movies this old are kind of dumb, but in this case, I don't think very many of y'all have seen this movie. I loved this movie when it came out. I was 13. But apparently it was a huge flop, and even now only has like a 17% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. This movie gets compared a lot to Blazing Saddles, which was another Western spoof, but I don't think the comparison is really fair. Blazing Saddles came out years before Rustlers Rhapsody did in the 70s and was a product of a completely different time and culture. Both films have completely different styles and different themes. Blazing Saddles sort of takes on racism, whereas Rustlers Rhapsody tackles toxic masculinity, and it's fun. Now, some of the jokes are dated, obviously. This movie was made 35 years ago, y'all, but other jokes have aged remarkably well. First of all, this movie is about one of the most extra equestrians ever put to film, Rex O'Hurlehan, the singing cowboy. The film opens in black and white in a 1940s style Western, but then quickly turns itself on its head with the question, what would those old Westerns look like today? Today being the 80s. This is when the movie pulls a Wizard of Oz and goes from black and white to color, and the entire tone of the movie shifts. The old movie tropes don't work in the real world. Practicalities have to be addressed. Bad guys are not as scared. The law of gravity has to be obeyed. So now Rex is a highly polished, immaculately groomed cowboy in a dirty, dusty, tumbleweed Western environment. This is the setup of our movie. And Rex is extra. He has a Palomino horse named Wildfire because of course he does. This horse wears a tack setup with silver and black and white. I swear to God, this is the tack set from my Western Barbie that I had in 1983. She had a horse and the horse had this silver saddle, and I swear it looked exactly like this. This is a Western Barbie horse. Our hero has an entire closet full of clothes and hats and boots and shiny weapons and guitars. This is a campsite. He is glamping. I want this exact life so badly. So, our hero Rex trots on into this new town and goes directly to the new saloon where we experience the rest of our exposition. Before he goes in though, he ties his horse by the bit out in front of the saloon, which, shame, 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 we never do this. So I really love this scene, but sometimes when I watch this, I really can't get past the dog circus that's happening in the background. Like, what is going on? Who booked this act? Are they local? I have questions. So here's where we get our exposition via the town drunk, played by G.W. Bailey. And we meet all the Western stereotypes: the saloon owner, the good guys, sheep herders, the bad guys all dressed in black, the hooker with the heart of gold. By the way, side note, Marilu Henner was nominated for a Golden Raspberry for her performance in this film, and that is so rude. Oh my gosh. If you're watching this video and you happen to know Marilu Henner personally, I want you to tell her from me that every gesture, every eyebrow raise, every vocal inflection, every heave of her bosom was perfection. She is a goddess. Anyway, Rex is so extra in all of this, by the way. He stands out in every possible way, from the clothes that he is wearing to the drink he orders at the bar. He starts with a milk, but then ends up with a warm glass of gin with a human hair in it. The bad guys make their first entrance, and everybody scatters. These guys are bamboozled by the shiny cowboy in front of them. They insult his manhood and his clothing. And Rex, get this, y'all, oh my God, Rex says, how a person dresses is nobody's business but his or her own. This is some seriously progressive language for 1985. The very next second, our bad guys call Rex gay, and he does not even take the bait. I love it. And because our hero is a good guy, he doesn't kill people. He shoots them in the hand. He disarms them. This confuses the bad guys at first. In the hand. And in their confusion, the two lowly bad guys end up shooting their leader. Rex solved this conflict by remaining in control of his emotions, disarming his opponents, and using their own strengths against them. Absolute power move. After this scene, we get more exposition. At one point, there's the bad guys loading their dead leader up onto a horse, and this movie just has so many layers and details like this. This is one of those movies you have to watch more than once. So here's where Rex reveals that all Western towns are exactly the same, and that he knows the future, he knows what's gonna happen. Also, when he calls his horse Wildfire, the horse comes up here with part of the railing still attached to the reins, and this is why we don't tie from the bit. Sir, please do better by your horse, okay? Thank you. Oh, one more side note. Every time he takes off on this horse, he shouts, "On Wildfire!" And I swear to God, y'all, I'm going to make my canter cue, my vocal cue for cantering, on. So that when I go, "On Sunny," or "On Artax," my horse just like takes off and we get it. Okay, anyway. So now we have to meet the other characters. The bad guys go back to their boss, the Colonel, because of course he's the Colonel. This is Andy freaking Griffith, y'all, in one of the funniest things I have ever seen him in my entire life. If you don't know who Andy Griffith is, ask your grandma. And the Colonel's daughter, played by Cella Ward, whose 1980s brown eyeliner is super aggressive. Oh my God, the scene where the Colonel's daughter is talking to her horse Wildfire. Her horse is named Wildfire too, because again, of course. She's talking to the horse and she's like petting him and she's kissing him and she's like, "You love me and I'm the only one that can ride you." And of course the next scene is the horse dragging her across the prairie. And I think they're coming for horse girls here, y'all. I feel a little attacked in that scene, if we're being honest. The plot thickens when the Colonel teams up with another Colonel, the spaghetti Western Colonel. So here we've got two genres of Westerns with the bad guys teaming up, and I really kind of love this idea. So Rex breaks up the secret train meeting of the two colonels and flexes on them with his sick dressage moves. At this point in the movie, our hero is always one step ahead of his adversaries. He knows what's coming before it's going to happen. So now we have Rex rescuing the colonel's daughter from her runaway horse, where we have what is basically a very brief car chase but with horses. And after being dragged behind a bolting horse for almost 24 hours, our little girl here has one smudge of dirt on her face and the rest of her makeup is snatched. This movie. I love this scene though, where they're both gushing about their horses, both named Wildfire. Oh my God, me too. Especially when our girl starts talking about how high-spirited her horse is and she's like, "He's an Arabian." Child, he is not an Arabian. Like, I don't know what breed that horse is, but it's not an Arabian. It's not. This kind of detail is super annoying for horse people. Like, can you not just find out what breed of horse it is and say that? That way all the equestrians in the audience aren't giving the screenwriters the side eye. This scene gets progressively crazier and crazier. This is where the movie decides to just do whatever it wants. The hooker with the heart of gold shows up, as does the town drunk, who now wants to be Rex's sidekick. And on top of this, the good guy sheep people come to talk to Rex to get his help with the Colonel. Rex is clearly starting to lose control of the room. So Peter the drunk gets to be the sidekick and takes over the mule, Isabel, who is adorable. At first I was annoyed by them putting him on the mule because he's bouncing all over her back in the training montage. But I think either G.W. Bailey was goofing in that first scene or he took lessons during the shoot or something, because later scenes show him with a much quieter seat. So I don't know if that was just him hamming it up for the camera. I hope so, because that bouncing, I was like, oof, bless that mule, she is a saint. Just a note here, skip the musical number. Ugh. Don't skip too far though, or you will miss the scene where Rex tries on a stack of identical white cowboy hats. So extra. So we're halfway through this movie. We gotta have this big event happen, right? It's a shootout. The two colonels have combined all their men and have them up on this big ridge, very menacing like, pointing their guns down at Peter and Rex. Rex actually has a moment here. He realizes he's miscalculated. He's outgunned. He can't shoot his way out of this without killing somebody or sacrificing his partner. So what does he do? Dressage, baby! He busts out some serious horse dancing moves. And it's so good. Horse people, have you ever been watching like some really high level freestyle dressage and it is so breathtaking that you just watch the whole thing with your mouth open and you forget you have a snack? This is that performance. Rex brings 100% and the bad guys can't help but enjoy themselves. This scene is so beautiful. Watching them go from menacing guys holding guns to being intrigued. Then they start smiling, they're lowering their guns, they start clapping and laughing. They're like, "I wish my horse could do that." And the other one's like, "Me too." And my God, y'all, if that is not all of us, I don't know what is. This is an absolutely gorgeous moment. Does Rex go out in a blaze of glory, shooting every last bullet he has in a slow motion frenzy of death? No, our hero puts on an impromptu performance and he is good. By the way, it is Tom Berenger on that horse in some shots. Now, some of the long shots you can tell it's the stunt rider, but there are a lot of those shots it's actually my dude in the saddle. Okay, go. I see you, Tom Berenger. Rex is so good at what he does that the bad guys can't help but be charmed by this performance. This is a peaceful solution to conflict. Disarm with charm. He literally disarmed his opponents with fantastic horsemanship long enough for him and his buddy to get away. So now we get to the final showdown, and it's something Rex hasn't seen before. It's not just another final shootout between a good guy and a bad guy. Turns out, plot twist, the final shootout isn't with a really bad guy. It's with a good guy. The bad guys hired a good guy for the final shootout. Can you do that? Another side note, y'all, they got Patrick Wayne for this. This is the son of the legendary cowboy actor John Wayne. Now, John Wayne was unavailable for filming due to the fact that he had passed away 6 years prior. Obviously, the next best thing is to hire the son of the most famous movie cowboy in American history. And he is so funny in this. The whole scene where they try to work out who's the most good guy, oh my god. Finally, the good guy questions Rex's sexuality, and Rex backs down. Now let's break this down a bit. I know nowadays, in 2020, having the qualifier being a confident heterosexual is your qualification for being a good guy is extremely outdated, since we all know gay cowboys are a thing and there's no way they're not good guys. However, in the LGBTQ dark ages of the 1980s, being gay was still considered an insult and something mainstream culture insisted that you did not want to be. The movie still has these insensitive moments, but even within the context of the times, this film is pretty progressive. Rex is not insulted or angry anytime his masculinity is questioned, but this time the stakes are really high, and he decides he needs to be honest with himself before he can really have the confidence to claim that he is absolutely the good guy. So he backs down. He quits. He walks away. And immediately the town mobs him in an angry mob. Like they know. Ah! Also, Peter the sidekick gets punched by a little girl in this scene. This movie is bananas. Come to find out, Rex is a 30-year-old virgin. And it's all because he has refused to treat women like trophies or property. He reveals to Peter in a private moment that he's never had an intimate relationship because he's never stayed long enough to obtain consent. I think Rex is demisexual, which I think is really neat. The demisexual male character in film. This is such a beautiful scene of wholesome masculinity. Rex opens up to Peter honestly, and Peter listens without judgment. Rex ends up with a better understanding of who he is and finds the confidence to finally end this movie. So now Rex is no longer messing around. He rounds up the good guy sheep herders and they all gallop into town, and now Rex is standing in the saddle. Yes, Rex! One last side note, I'm watching this final galloping scene very closely, and some of the riders, I swear, look like women in facial makeup and fake beards. Tell me if I'm wrong. This is the same thing they did shooting Lord of the Rings years later. So this is a thing, using women stunt riders and dressing them up like men, and I'm pretty sure they did this in this movie. Of course, our boy wins the day. And because this is the 80s, the movie ends with a giant party and Rex rides off into the sunset. I tried researching the horses used in this film. I looked for articles, I looked for interviews, I looked for stories about the horses, what kind of horses they used. You always find stuff like that about these movies, but I found nothing on this film. I can't even find the horses' names in the movie's credits. I did notice they used several horses to be Wildfire, and I'm sure that's because one knows all the dressage moves and one is good for the where the cowboy jumps up over his butt, and one knows how to just ride and be in all the scenes and be quiet. I think this is because the film was such a flop when it came out that nobody cared, so there were no like press releases and interviews and stuff or wild stories from the set. Like, nobody cared. That is so sad. Yes, the pace lags in places. Yes, a lot of the jokes are outdated and cringy. However, when the movie does hit, it hits hard. The horses are beautiful and athletic and talented, and so are the human actors. If you have not seen Rustlers Rhapsody, you are failing at life. Go do that right now and then come back and tell me how right I am. I'll wait. And if you have seen the movie, what's your favorite line or favorite scene from the movie? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching another Equestrian film review, and have a great day.